Hello everybody and welcome to the Film and Video Production Masterclass Week 3. My name is Tom Sternad and I'm the lead digital artist of the Creator Space. So thanks for joining us, and we're going to continue on this process, and today we'll be looking at the production equipment. So we spoke about what is required. We've written a script, we did our pre-production planning, shot list, figure out cast, production design, thinking about color palettes and what kind of props we might need. We've found our location. So we have everything ready that we need to make this film or video. But the last thing we need is some sort of equipment to capture it. Otherwise, we can do it, we can rehearse it, but we need something to capture it with. So there's two main elements of video production and filmmaking. That is, we need a camera to capture the picture, and then we need something to capture sound, if we are capturing sound. So there can be, exceptions where you're not requiring capturing sound. It could just be a silent film, lots of exceptions. So you might not need to capture sound, that's fine. But usually the main two things are there's picture, there's sound, and we need the equipment to capture that. So let's have a look at what that means. So first off, I just want to thank all of our partners in this project for making this happen and allowing us to bring these workshops to you. We're at home right now during this time. So we have the Canada Council for the Arts, and we have our library partners, the Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, and the Wasaga Beach Public Library. So we're really happy to have everyone involved in that. So that's really great. Now, the one thing with the library partners, I'm going to refer to it a bit today. Some of the equipment that we'll be talking about and looking at, you can access through the libraries. So particularly right now, the Blue Mountains Public Library and the Wasaga Beach Public Library, this equipment's available. And coming soon, some of the equipment will be available at the Collingwood Public Library as well. So that's coming up in the coming weeks and so on. So just make sure, whatever we talk about today, there might be some delays just with health restrictions and things, but you can get equipment at some point. So just be aware that it might take a bit longer than usual, but otherwise you'd be able to take equipment out, take it out just like a book. So it's really exciting that we can have that equipment access, and you guys can then access it. What we're talking about today, we're also going to talk about elements of what you can do with your own equipment. So we always want to bring it back to the fact that you might want to use your own equipment too. Same principles apply. You might want to enhance what you have with maybe just taking out a tripod or maybe taking out a microphone to add to what you have. That's the great thing, is you don't have to take everything from the library. You might just need, hey, I need one microphone. Hey, I need a video tripod. Just take that out. Take out what you need for your particular production. Okay, so let's get right into this. So overview. We've got lots to talk about today, so we'll keep a quick pace. So we'll talk about what equipment will your production need, equipment available through our library partners, digital cinema and video equipment, lighting style, lighting equipment, sound recording, and we'll talk about the basics of in-camera and sound recorder setups. Then we will do a Blackmagic Pocket 4K cinema camera overview, a quick start guide, and you can supplement this with, we have tons of videos on our YouTube channel about all of the production elements. So all of these things you can do, additional hours on more in-depth look. So this is really to give you a good, kind of brush stroke of what you need, so you can get up and running really quick to get into your first video production. Instead of, instead of spending weeks learning the equipment, you can really get into it. So we want to talk about a quick start guide today. Alternative cameras, using your own equipment. And then the big thing, getting your equipment ready for production. We'll have a bit of time for Q&A at the end as well. So you can add any questions in the chat. I'll be looking at that as well as we go. So let's keep the conversations going. You can also email me. I'm just going to put this in the chat. It's tom@tbmcs.ca. During this course, so just send me an email if you have questions, if you've worked on a script, you have a shot list, you want feedback. Love to see what you guys are working on. Love to give you feedback. So feel free to send me an email, and I can get back to you with answers to your questions or give you more resources from some of the other workshops we have, so other videos you might be able to watch. So what equipment will your production need? Your pre-production is complete. Now you got to start to consider technically what do you need to film and record this script that you've written and the actors that you have cast. So there's a few questions that will quickly identify what equipment you'll need. And again, you can rewatch this after, so don't worry about taking notes. This will be available through the same link right after we're finished. So production equipment questions. Number 1, will I use my equipment? Will I use my existing equipment and technology, or will I borrow equipment from our library partners? So decide which path, and we'll talk a bit more about that in this workshop. Does my script have dialogue or require the recording of sound? So, the first question, do we need sound? You might not need sound, so then you don't have to worry about sound. If yes, question 3, can you use the internal microphone on the camera or device, or do you need better quality microphones for recording? And then if yes again, you need better quality microphones, what sound recording equipment do you need to borrow from our library partners? So you might just need a microphone, you might need the sound recorder, and so on. So you can kind of think about what you might need. 5, will you require additional lighting, such as continuous LED lights, or will you be working with available light? Now, available light basically refers to the fact of just using what's in the space as it exists. That's fine, really, to get going and start your first production, where you might want to concentrate on the actual shots and working with your cast and getting through that experience, and that's totally fine. I like to call it almost a practice film. Get through it, write a short script. That's what we're trying to achieve in this project at this point. But if you do want to maybe enhance the lighting, you might want to take out some additional lighting, and we'll talk a bit about that today too. So then if yes, how many lights will you need to borrow from the library? How many lights do you need? Well, we'll look at some of the quick scenarios of lighting setups and how many you need. So here's a list, and it's pretty much up to date now. I've gone through it. The available digital arts equipment for video production. There's more equipment, but this is specifically the equipment that would allow you to shoot video. So we have the video camera kit, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K with lenses. Then we have a Manfrotto video tripod. And the video tripod's important because it lets you do a pan and tilt. So it's going to let you pan and tilt, and it has a fluid head that allows you to do that smoothly. Versus a photo tripod, this lets you set the camera, lock it to take your picture, and it doesn't allow you to do those movements, right? So in motion picture, video, we have moving cameras and moving images, so we can capture motion. In photography, you're just capturing a still, so the tripod doesn't have to actually move. So that's a big difference. If you're booking one or the other, make sure you're booking the video tripod when you go to the library. Now, you can also use the photography camera kit. We have Canon 6D DSLRs, full frame cameras with a 24 to 105 millimeter lens. You can do video recording. You can put it in video recording mode. So that's another camera you could use. Then we have the newer LED lighting kits. I'll show you guys what that is, with lighting stands and soft boxes as well. So those are available to take out. Then we have a reflector. It's a 48-inch 5-in-1 reflector, so like for bouncing light around and things. And again, we're not going to get too much into all of these more advanced techniques, but just so you know what's there. You might already know what you want to use a reflector for, so just so if you already know you need it, it's there. It's a quick way to really block light or bounce light and so on. It's pretty straightforward, so it's a great tool that oftentimes is underused. Sound recording kit, we have the Zoom H4n kit that comes with the Rode Wireless Go, a Superlux shotgun mic, and that is all that you need to record your sound with for dialogue with with an actor or with the shotgun mic in general. Then we have a 360 video kit, and that consists of the GoPro Fusion camera, and we also have the Kodak Pix Pro 360 cameras that are coming soon to all 3 library partners. So that's if you want to shoot in 360 video. We have an upcoming 360 video workshop, so feel free to join us on that. And we also have resources, a lot of videos on 360 video, which is a great way to do something different. It's a different type of medium for video capture. Then we also have an iPad Pro and iPads in general. Most of our library partners also have iPads already available to borrow. You can shoot video with those, something that we don't want to forget about. So at Blue Mountain Public Library, we have the iPad Pro that can do 4K video recording, which is really cool. The other iPads can do HD, full HD, and 1920 by 1080. So that's a great resource. You might have your own, and that's the technology you could be using to capture this short film with. Specialized equipment proficiency test. So we talked about this in some of an earlier workshop on equipment access, but just wanted to mention, so there's 3 kits that require an additional proficiency test. This is available through our website. tbmcs.ca, and you can do these online testing proficiency tests, and then it qualifies you to take out this equipment as you would a book. So the video camera kit, photography camera kit, and sound recording kit all require proficiency tests. But if you want to take out just the tripod or just a set of lights or a reflector, that is accessible just like a book. Also, the 360 cameras don't require proficiency tests. They're, again, very straightforward, very robust, waterproof, GoPro or Kodak, and like action camera style. So they really can take a beating. So those are available right away. We want everyone, using technology as they can right away. So also, once we're back to some in-person workshops, we'll be available to you'll be doing proficiency testing basically during the workshop. So if we did digital cinematography workshop, you would then be proficient to use that camera at the end of the workshop. So that's the good news. Those will be available as well. So again, email me if you have any questions about the proficiency tests, and this is applicable to the Blue Mountains Public Library and Wasaga Beach Public Library that both currently have the digital arts loan equipment available. Digital cinema and video equipment. So types of control. So let's talk a bit about the two types of control. So essentially we have manual and automatic. So, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K camera is a totally manual camera, and it's, you put a lens on, you can then adjust the settings, exposure, your focus, color balance, and more. So that's all totally manual. And versus something like, an iPad, a Canon 6D, it can be in auto mode, 360 video cameras, these are all in automatic modes. So that means that the camera itself is adjusting exposure, color balance, and more. And it's just automatically doing that for each scene or environment. And there are ways to make it into locking mode, but you're basically locking automatic process. So they're never really truly manual. The Canon 6D can go into a full manual mode as well, but it can be a full automatic. So that one can do either or, which is kind of a fun option as well. So just to note here, so manual video production, definitely more challenging, but it puts you in charge. So, when choosing these, use what you feel more comfortable with. It's not that one's right or wrong. It's just if you are starting out, go with something that can be automatic, like using maybe your own technology, and like an iPad or a smartphone. But also, if you're feeling like a bit of a challenge, try out the 4K Blackmagic camera. It's a fantastic camera, and you'll see today. Okay, so equipment, choosing what you will film with. So what camera will you use? So personal camera, it could be smartphone, DSLR, your own video camera, it could be digital arts equipment from the library partner. So Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K kit. So that's the first thing. Will you be handheld or use a tripod? That's another thing. You might not even need a tripod. You might say, hey, I'm just going to be handheld. I want to just go handheld. That's my style. We talked about that movement style right from the beginning. So if you're going to use a tripod, consider taking out the video tripod. It has a great fluid head, and there's a ball head. So it's a quick leveling system. So the ball head basically lets you unscrew the bottom, and then you can move it to level it with a little leveling bubble versus having to adjust it with the legs. So it's a very fast way to adjust and make sure you're level. Then do you need to record sound? So you can book the portable sound kit, and use some of the microphones, or will you use the existing microphone, right? So do you want that sound kit with the recorder and microphones, or are you going to just use the existing microphone that could be just on your device, or it could be on the Blackmagic camera has a stereo front microphones as well. Is there enough light? So we talked about that. Available light. Well, you just use what's there. Does it work? And that's something that in choosing your location, do you have a good location that has enough light and it can work that way? And or will you need to take out some additional lights? So will you take out the newer 480 LED? So it's referred to as the 480 because there's 480 LED lights on it. And it's kind of like a watt of light, watt of power per light. So it's about like a 500 watt light when it's fully on. And there's stands and optional softbox for softer light sources. So these are these equipment choices, considerations. Choosing lenses. So lots on lens choices, different shot sizes. So we have our kit set up with prime lenses. So, what is a prime lens? So essentially, the prime lens is something like this. So in this case, this is a 10 millimeter lens, and it stays as a wide 10 millimeter wide angle lens versus a zoom lens. I have one over here. This is a 35 to 105, and I can adjust it, and it basically adjusts itself from 35 to 105, and it's making it from a wider to a telephoto lens within the same lens. So zoom and prime. So then you got to think about the smaller the number, the wider the lens. So the 10 millimeters is the wider lens, and then they get more and more telephoto. So think about the telephoto like a telescope, right? So wide angle lens, you'd be looking at 20 millimeter or less. That could be perfect for a wide establishing shot. So if we've shot listed a wide shot, you'd want to be on that kind of a wider lens. Then what we call a normal lens, 24 millimeter, 35 millimeter, it kind of resembles our own eyesight as humans. And that's perfect for medium shots and close shots. So kind of the normal field of view or point of view you have. So think about if you're talking to someone, that kind of view, like you kind of see the medium shot of them, right? We're not that close to people, and it works that way. Then there's the 50 millimeter, often referred to as a portrait lens, great for close-ups or close shots of subjects. So you're kind of getting more, definitely kind of shoulders, head only. Then there's the telephoto, 85 millimeters plus, and that's perfect for those extreme close-ups and details. So again, those little hidden notes, let's say on a map, and you want to really show that there's a clue somewhere in your shot, you want to use those extreme close-ups. It can also be used for reactions, like people's eyes, reactions. It could be used to show that someone has a cut on their finger, and that could be a clue, something for your story. It could be used to show details of a leaf. So anything can be in that telephoto. So those are just lenses. These come with the kit. You get a wide, a normal, a portrait, and a telephoto. So it comes. Each kit comes with the 4 lenses as well. So that's really great. You can mix and use them appropriately. Also, if the Canon 6D comes with a 24 to 105, so you kind of get that range too, where it's from a wide, 24 is pretty wide on that camera, to the 105 telephoto. So you can use the zoom range to go through these lens sizes to match the shot you're doing. Okay, so equipment. Zoom lens, we talked about that. So this is what you find on an iPad or smartphone. You can basically zoom in or out. So you can go from wide angle to telephoto. Range is about 60 millimeter, 100 millimeter plus. And then you can also do a zoom movement. So you can zoom into a subject versus actually moving. So zoom versus moving towards a person. And then there's different artistic uses. Zooms, I made a note here, tend to be more for factual, like documentaries and sports. And then in drama or fiction, tends to be more about primes. But there are those exceptions too, like a lot of Western films. Quentin Tarantino has done some zoom work too. So sometimes an homage to older filmmaking styles, the zoom will be used as well. So lighting your subject. So here's that kind of moving on from the camera and the lenses. So we figured out, we got our lens kit. We know we got our iPad or our iPhone or smartphone with a zoom. So either way, we're covered to do those different shot sizes with the lenses. And again, we have some really good resources on lenses and manual cinematography. And coming up after this workshop, so we've got one more week next week, but the week after, we started digital cinematography 4-week masterclass. So definitely sign up for that. And that will get you into the real nuts and bolts of what I'm talking about here, to a very kind of high level, extreme details on digital cinematography 4-week masterclass. So please join us for that. So lighting your subjects, available or artificial light? So that's always a question. Which way do you want to go? So you can light your subject, and that can consist of using just what's there, available light, sunlight, table lamps, or artificial light, LED, spotlights, or continuous film lights. And it can also consist of a combination of both. So for example, right now I'm lit with, I have a light over here, like a fluorescent continuous light. There's actually a window by it, and there's a window over here to this side. So this is natural light, artificial light, and there's a table lamp in the background, which is available light as well. So this is a combination where I put a little bit of extra light so that I'm not too dark in here. And I'm also using the windows as a lighting source. Why not? They're there. And everything is daylight balanced except for the lamp in the back is tungsten. So you'll see that it's a little bit warmer on the color temperature side. So that's always fun. You can always mix different sources like that too. But using what's there is really great when you're doing independent small production filmmaking, and then augmenting that with a little bit of extra light. So like what you're seeing here, a little bit of extra light to fill in my face as well. So that's a great way to deal with that, combinations. So 3-point lighting. So this is kind of answers the question, how many lights will you need? If you're taking lights out from the library partners, you have to determine, well, how many lights do you actually need? No, that's a great question. So 3-point lighting, helps us kind of think about that and determine what that might be. So when you're lighting a subject, there's the 3 main lights in 3-point lighting. We have a key light, which is your main light and your strongest light. We have a fill light, which is a secondary light, and that's to help soften shadows. Then we have a backlight, a separation light. And again, in this kind of an example, I have the strongest light right here is my key light. I have a fill light, which is actually the window. There's no light over on this side, just using the window to fill in this side here. So the key's the brightest, a little bit of fill. So that would be maybe 50% to 80% of that. So it's definitely always a bit softer. So this should be brighter, this would be less bright. And then I have a little bit of a backlight on my shoulder here. And technically that table lamp too is a bit of a backlight or a separation light. Not necessarily on me, but it's just on to fill in the back that would just be totally dark there. So it just gives you a little bit of separation of what's myself versus the background, right? So that's that separation light. So what does it look like in terms of a chart? So here's a chart, 3-point lighting diagram. That key light, fill light, you'll see, so about 45 degrees. And I'm never really using lights that are from the point of the camera. And the reason is that tends to be very flat. So imagine again, if I'm here, you can see there's a bit of shadow here. And I got light this way, and behind me, but I don't have light directly at me. That would make a very flat light, and it makes it more of a, that could be good for news, or that's the kind of lighting we'll see, is more flat. But usually when we're trying to tell a story or lighting, I always say we're lighting with shadows, not necessarily with lighting. So, the shadows are what helps give me, human quality, because you don't usually see people just flat, right? We're in some shadows and we can create moods. And then you just decide, okay, well, maybe you want like no fill. So then it starts to look how much darker it makes you just by putting my hand in front, right? So that's reducing the fill. Changes the mood. Could be, maybe for a horror film or a thriller film, makes it a lot darker right away. So, you can be working just with one light, just a key light, maybe an available table lamp. So we can work with as little as one light, but ideally we can work with 2 or 3. So that's kind of your answer. How many lights do you need? Probably take at least 1 out. If you can't take out 3, then you can try out some 3-point lighting as we have shown here in this diagram. So key light, 100%, 45 degrees to the camera. Then the fill light, another 45 degrees, about half of the main light. And the backlight's about 20% to the key light. So just really kind of soft, a little bit of backlight. Now this is not a rule. This is just a general idea of where to start. Some people in doing films and directors of photography will have really strong backlights. I see that in like Scorsese films. There's really strong rim lights, glowing. Those will be the key. That would be the strongest light of the scene most likely. So there's always exceptions. So think about, that could be possible. But again, how many lights do you need? I say, if you can take out 3, if you wanted to start out with a couple, with like a key and a bit of a backlight, that can work just as well. And then you can use some available light as well. So start out, and that would be your answer. How many lights do you need? Okay, storytelling with light. So just as I was showing you, lighting can create different moods and tones. So I can be, a bit brighter. I'm not too bright in this lighting setup particularly. So, trying to keep a bit of a nice mood in these workshop recordings. And then by keeping everything really bright, you're saying one thing. It could be very positive, happy. and versus dark, it might be a little bit mysterious. So again, you can imagine if you're cutting different light sources off, I can start to get really dark. You can see how dark my face is now if there's no light, right? So that's just the key. There's a little bit of the fill, and it slowly changes the mood, right? So with this, it's a little bit more mysterious. Like this, it becomes really dark, right? I just have a little bit of kind of light coming around, but now I'm really in shadows, right? So that's more of a sinister look. So think about what you're doing with the storytelling as you're preparing to light. And that's a real fun thing, is that storytelling with light. Lighting equipment. So just to kind of recap. So based on the choice of your lighting style, whether you're going to use available light or you're going to use artificial light, you may need up to 3 lights to execute a 3-point lighting style. You can also work with 2 lights for a key and backlight, and then use available lighting as your fill, just like I'm demonstrating here in the actual studio during this workshop. Then you can even work with just 1 light and use available lighting for the rest. The main thing is to have 1 key or bright light to help expose with, and then you can paint or fill in the shadows with additional sources. So, again, at a minimum, you want to take out that 1 light as a key. That will really help enhance your storytelling and filmmaking. If you don't want to be bothered with lighting, just start with available light for this first film project, and you can get to bringing in more lights at a future project. So lighting equipment options, here's kind of the things that you can take out from our library partners. So you can add a softbox to our LED lights. That helps create a softer and more even lighting approach. And it's great for lighting faces when we're adding in fill, and it's a little more gentle. So it's, if you want to have the softbox, so it's like a little box, and I'm just gonna grab it quickly. I just have it outside here. So the softbox is a really great tool to add. And it comes in a great little bag. And so just to kind of give an idea of what some of this equipment looks like. So what will we be accessing? So we have the LED kit is like this. The newer LED kit comes in a bag. And then when we open it up, we end up with a light, a cable, extension cable, an adapter, and there's also a battery charger. So you get these batteries, and then those it can be battery operated, and the light looks just like this. So that's the LED light. Then you can just turn it on, and turn on with the battery mode here. You can see how bright it is. So that's the light, right? So it can really add a lot of lights, right? Really quickly. So that's the light on off. And then on top of that, we can then take out a softbox. So they come in these little bags, and it's a softbox. And you can put this on top of that light. And what does the softbox look like? So it looks like this. So it kind of looks like a little bit of a reflector, and it literally is a softbox. So this gets assembled together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then you put this on the back of the light, and the front is soft like that. So you can see it's totally, it's opaque, but it has just enough to let some light through. Very soft light. And what does that look like? So you saw how harsh the light was before. Now, let's put the same light on. So if I have the light like this, you can see how bright that is. And now I'll put it behind this. Look how much softer that is, right? So super bright, really soft, right? And then that makes a real soft addition to me versus the really bright, harsh. See how much softer that is? So it's a great tool, the softbox, to use to just add that really nice soft light. And again, sometimes it's underused. I really love it as an element. So then the last thing you're gonna need is also, you choose whether you want the lights, and then you're going to need these light stands. So they're just a little three three-stage lighting stand. You put the light on the back here, so you need a stand. You need the light. Softbox is optional. And then we also have these reflectors. And they're a 5-in-1 reflector. What do these look like? They come in the little bag. So this is the gold and the white mode. Just going to open it up over here. And then you get this big, and look at what it can do now when if I bounce like, light off. See how it makes my face a lot warmer, right? That's just bouncing it off like that. I can use it to, block light. So in this case now I have got rid of the fill, right? And I can, and I can also put it around me to like bounce the white light around. So it's a very versatile thing. It can be used to block, to add light, and it's a great tool. So that's the 48-inch reflector. And then you just twist and it folds back up into this nice little unit and it's good to go. Okay, so that's the equipment. So I made the note here. So what kind of lighting do you need? LED lights plus lighting stand plus the softbox if needed. And, why not try out these wonderful reflectors as well? I think they're a really cool tool. We see a lot in photography, but it's a great way to add light, especially if you're outside, sunlight redirections and things like that. So it's a really, really great tool. So you can always check that out. Okay, let's move along. So sound recording options. So if you need to record sound, dialogue, or ambient, you need to consider what quality you're seeking to record. So you can use the internal microphones for general ambient sound, nature, street environment, even dialogue, but it's highly recommended to use an external microphone and or the sound recorder for dialogue or spoken words. So, just to consider that in your choosing your equipment. So they are direct to camera recording. So there's a few types. You can do the internal microphones, and that's directly built into the camera. And let me just see, I can probably swing this camera around. So here's the Blackmagic pocket camera. And here you'll see there's a microphone on each side, left, right. This is the internal microphone right here. And they're quite good. So you can get, pretty decent recording. So, again, if you're, when in starting out, you might just want to go with something, just using that available microphone. It's a lot better, the internal microphone on this camera, than what you'll find like on an iPad or an iPhone. So, just consider that could be a great option is to use that. Now, the other thing is then we can also put in inputs. So we can actually plug in inputs into the side here. So you see it says audio in, and let me just get up here, just focus into that. The audio in, and the audio in goes right here. So you can put an XLR, and there's also a top microphone input here. So that's a 1.8, and this is the XLR. So again, a lot to deal with. I'm not going to get into all of those, but those are the options you have, right? So we do have videos that explain how to do all this thoroughly. So definitely check that out on our YouTube channel. So the Blackmagic Pocket 4K cinema camera has those three options: internal microphones, the 1.8-inch input that can be a line or mic, and the mini XLR input can be line or mic. And it also offers the 48 phantom power that you need to power the boom mic. So what does this all mean? So in the recording kits, we have these wonderful wireless, the Rode Wireless Go system that is wireless, has the 1.8-inch cable that goes into the Blackmagic, and then it wirelessly goes to another pickup, or this is the sending unit, transmission unit, receiver unit. This has a microphone built into it. You simply just clip it on to like a vest, like so, pointing it at the mouth. And so I should be pointing it up this way in my demo, right? So I just have like so, pointing it up, and then this goes to the camera, and voila, you have a microphone. You can hide that, clip it into someone's shirt, and so on. The other option we have are these shotgun mics as well. This just requires putting in an XLR cable, and you get that all with the kits. And then that could be run right to the camera. So then you have a boom mic, right? So that's the other piece of equipment. So here's the Rode, just a little bit on that. And it's totally wireless. It's a great system. and that way there's no cables between you and the person talking. So that's the one option. Then we have the Superlex PRA118S, and that's the shotgun microphone. And this is really great because with the shotgun microphone, you can then, use the microphone, you can, point it at the person talking, at their mouth again. It could be done from above. You kind of we see those shots of boom mics being used. So, and that way you're kind of hands-free, one mic going between multiple actors talking, and the boom mic just needs to be at whoever's talking. So in a wider shot, you're moving between the people. In a close-up shot, you can just stay on the person that's in the close-up. So if this was a shot of just me, I would just stay hold the mic right at me, even if someone else is talking, because that's going to be the most important audio to capture is my close-up. And then in a wider shot, you'd just be moving between, person A, person B. And that's really the cool thing. Now, just a note here, it does require an additional input cable adapter. I have one right here. So what does it look like? Basically, it looks like this. It's a mini XLR to the full XLR, and then so you plug that through a cable, or it can go right into the microphone XLR like so, and then the mini XLR goes right into the Blackmagic camera. So that's how you would hook that up. Then we have a sound recorder. I don't have a Zoom H4n here, but this is what we have in our kits available. I have just a Tascam DR40, very similar microphones on the top, internal. Then there's also the external XLR input, so you can put the boom mic into channel 1 and record it what's called a dual system or double system. So then you have sound here, picture on your video camera, sound only on this camera. And then you combine them in the editing. So that's another way that you can do sound. Or you might just want to take the sound recorder if you want to, let's get, you need sounds of the forest for the film you're shooting. And you can just go out with the sound recorder and just get that on its own. So that could be, really cool too, right? So that's a great way to do it. So that's that double system. Double system, just like I explained, pictures on one system, sounds on the other. And then you need some sort of a slate. And then you synchronize that. And for the purposes of what we're doing right now, I would recommend you can just use your hand, and then you leave it open, and then you clap it to say that it's, that you're synced. So, and then in the editing, you look at when it's open, when it's closed, and you hear the clap sound and the sound, you combine and you synchronize from the picture being closed to that sound of the clap. And then you've synchronized your separate sound with your separate picture. Very complicated process. So, again, something that's a little bit more advanced, but it is totally possible for you to do with the library digital arts loan equipment. Otherwise, just go straight into the camera, maybe for this first production exercise, and work with the levels right in the camera directly. Okay, so the Blackmagic Pocket 4K Cinema Camera. So I put together this quick start guide, and we'll put a little bit on the audio inputs as well. So this is where we're kind of looked that up. So, how do we operate the camera? So here's the quick start guide. I'll talk about it, and then we'll review it as well with the actual camera as well. So you've taken out the camera, and you're ready to get going. So here's a quick start guide, so you don't have to spend a ton of time figuring it all out. This is what you do. So we power on, then we will choose the frame rate, choose the format, HD or 4K. Frame rate, we've had a lot of discussions in our workshops about frame rates and what they should or shouldn't be. There's really no right or wrong answer. It really depends on what frame rate do you want to use. And this is another artistic consideration too, and also a technical consideration. So higher frame rates have smoother, they have more frames, so the higher, faster action can be captured more smoothly. And the lower frame rates can be sometimes a little more cinematic or artistic looking, but they're not great for something really fast. So if you're doing, sports, for example, are generally shot in 60 frames in HD. And films that you see in theater are generally shot in 24 frames. So it's a big difference in how many frames per second. So, whole thing on frame rates, again, I check out our past workshops on that subject. I would recommend starting in 23.98 or 2997. That's kind of the standard video frame rates. And then the format, just decide if you want to shoot in HD or 4K. So HD is pretty much, most computers can handle that. 4K, you might need a little bit of a faster hard drive. But if you shoot 4K, you can always go back to our library partners and where we have our digital arts workstations, computer stations available, iMacs that can handle 4K on solid state drives or RAID drives. So that allows you to do that. So, if you go and shoot now, and then you can wait and get into one of the libraries and do the editing in 4K there. So that's always an option. Then you choose your ISO, which is the speed or sensitivity of the sensor. Choose your color temperature, basically is it daylight, so sunlight, or is it tungsten, like that light in the back here, right? So this is all daylight, and I'm daylight balanced, and then the tungsten is that light in the back, and it's yellow. So if I changed it, that one would look normal, and then the daylight would look very blue. So it would kind of flip around. So I'm daylight, and with just a little bit of that back light there is tungsten. So that's those two choices. Choose your exposure. So this is manually on the lens. And then I'll show you guys, look on the histogram. What does that mean? To get into the right zone. So we want to either open the lens or close the lens. And what does that look like? I'm going to just show, I think we'll be able to demonstrate right here. So here's the lens. And in terms of opening, see it's open all the way, and then I'm closing it down. So that's the aperture, open all the way, and then closing it down to a T22 or F22 and opening it to a 2.8. So wide open, closed down. So wide open, more light. If something's darker, you need it wide open. If it's really bright, like outside, you'd be closed down. So it's kind of like a pinhole, opening and closing. And that's how we manually adjust exposure. It's, hasn't changed that much for over 100 years. That's kind of the idea, is those just different technologies in those aperture blades and things, but that's manual exposure right there. Now it's in the digital world with iPads and that kind of those kind of devices. It's usually just working with light sensitivity. There isn't an actual physical iris or aperture blades that are opening or closing. So again, in the Blackmagic camera, we're using the lens to control that exposure. Then you choose your focus. So you focus with the lens manually, decide what's in focus. Then you can choose your audio inputs. Will it be the 1/8 inch for the wireless Rode Go system? Or will it be the XLR for the microphones? Or will it be the internal mics on the front of the camera that you want to use? Then you record your scene. You hit record button and you hit it again to stop recording. And that's it. That's a quick start guide. So it's not too complicated. And I'll show you guys in like 2 minutes how we can set it all up. So let's go right to the camera and we'll set it all up. So here's the Blackmagic Pocket 4K. I have a 50mm prime lens on it. So it's pretty close to what you'd be getting from the library. So this is just this is my own camera here that I'm demoing with. So what does it exactly look like? Right, so this is the lens right on top. So the camera would come without any lenses on it. So you'd remove the lens cap, and just looking where I ended up putting that. Here it is. So this is how it would show up in the case. So you'd have some sort of a lens cap on it. Right, lens cap. So I hit the button here. And this is how we get started. So lens cap off. I got my lens, comes out of the lens kit. I take the rear cap off and I line up. There's a red dot to red dot. Line it up. Oops. There we go. Line it up. Hear the click. Then the lens is on. Now at this point, I can just show you guys over here on the side. So here we have the different exposure ring. So this one's a 1.1 all the way to a 16. So opening or closing, right? So that's my exposure. Is usually the ring closest to the back here, and then the focus is on the front. So you can go from infinity, so seeing, focusing everything in the background, or it can go from a closer, like, a foot away kind of thing, right? So that's that's that. Okay, so then the next stage is we need to turn it on. So how do we turn it on? So we have the button right on the top is right here. So you see right here, it says on off. So I'm gonna hit on. Red light goes on. That means we're on. Okay, see, that's already, we got the lens. We're ready to go, not too far away. Okay, so now I'm gonna take the front lens cap off. So we have an actual image. You'll see that it's not really focused right now. It's just on the background here of my wall. It's nothing too great to see, but that's what it is. And here again, you can see the exposure. So totally dark to exposing, and it's pretty dark. So then the next thing is we need to choose our frame rate. So right at the top here, it says how many frames per second. So I'm gonna go on that, and I'm gonna go to 2398. So we see right there, we've done 2398. Then I'm gonna press that again. It's all a touch screen. So that's our setup of our frame rate. So I'm just gonna move this a bit closer here. And just let's focus that. Okay. That's great. Okay, so that's our frame rates. Then the next thing is our ISO. So where do we want to be? So this can go from 100 to 32,000. So we for this case, I'm just going to go to, let's say, 400 for inside. Okay, and then the next thing is our format. So I'm going to go over here to the menu. And under record, you can choose the different formats. So you can see it has Blackmagic RAW, which is a codec that it uses to make it kind of a small, lossless format that you can quickly edit with. So you can shoot in 4K or Ultra HD. 4K DCI is a theatrical format, or you can shoot in HD. So you just decide which format do you want to do. So I'm going to say, hey, let's do Ultra HD, because I want to shoot in that 4K mode, Blackmagic RAW, and that's our format. Then you can also, instead, I could have chosen here HD, and I can go to that format. Right, so just decide which one. Blackmagic RAW, you can also go to the QuickTime ProRes mode in these formats as well, which makes it a bit of a bigger file, but that's always an option as well. So whether it's Blackmagic RAW or Apple ProRes, those are your two format options. I'm going to get out of the menu. Okay, so that's great. So we've done our frame rate, our format, 4K, ISO, 400, color temperature. Next one on our quick start guide. Go right up here. It says white balance, 5600, and has quick symbols here. So I can go either manually from that, or I can just go from the sunlight. I can go to tungsten. I can see now it's all blue. The daylight becomes very blue. So I'm just going to go back to daylight or tungsten. So it's the first two, daylight number 1, tungsten number 2. Set that up. So if you're outside, daylight. If you're inside using available light, you're more likely using tungsten. Theaters would be like tungsten 2. Or if you're using a lot of windows inside, it might be daylight as well. So just look at what looks natural in the skin tones. Is it really blue or is it really white, right? Or in between. Is it kind of warm? Then it's probably natural. If it's blue, then you're probably in the wrong mode. Okay, so that's our white balance. Press that again on the touch screen. So we've set that up. Now the next thing is adjust our exposure. So here's what we call the histogram. And as it gets darker, you can see it goes all the way to the end. And that, you can see it's totally dark. So I don't have an image at all. But now I'm going to go all the way up to 1.1. And you can see the histogram is kind of creeping up, so it's not too bad. Ideally, we want it maybe somewhere in the middle. So I'm just going to go to the ISO and go boost it up a little bit more to 800. And you can see the histogram now is getting up there. We have a pretty bright exposure for back over there, so that's not bad, right? So as long as we're not all the way at the end here, and as long as we're not all the way to the top exposure, which is called clipping in either direction. So we want it somewhere in the middle there. What you see is what you get, I always say. So, if you want it to be not so bright, consider what that means. So now let's see, here's the screen actually that I'm projecting from. So then you can look at focus. So you take your focus ring and you get it to be focused. So you can see now I can read the words, they're in focus, they're out of focus. Oops, that's my exposure. So again, out of focus, clearly out of focus, and then in focus, nice and sharp, right? What you see is what you get. We can also use focus assist. It's another function, a little bit more advanced. So just right now, look at what you see is what you get, focus, exposure. Okay, looking good. Last thing here for our setups, we need to choose our audio inputs. So I'm gonna go back to the menu item over here. I'm gonna hit menu. I'm gonna go over to audio. And then I have 2 channels. So I'm gonna decide which one. So if I want the internal, I just go camera left, check, check, check. And then I can just adjust the level from 50% or higher. Check, check, check. Same here, I'm gonna go camera right. And basically now I have a stereo of the internal mic. So I'm like check, check, check. And you can see the levels happening there on that, on the camera. So that works out nice. Now if I wanna plug in the wireless Go, the Rode, I will go to the 3.5 millimeter left mic, and that's going to just plug right in there to the side. Or I can also choose the XLR mic, and that will let me put in that shotgun boom mic. So that's how we decide what input we have for our sound. And then get out of the menu, and let's see, I think I have this camera up, and then we're ready to record something. So let's maybe get something, I got some, you can see here, we're a little bit overexposed now, that's looking pretty good. And you know, what's in focus? So I'm gonna just focus on the microphones. Right, and that's it. So we're focused. And the last thing I need is to get to the recording button. Where is that recording button? So we have it right here on the top. It's right here. So there's a button right here. So I just press that to start recording, press again to stop. And alternatively, this is the great thing about this camera, we can also just use the button right here, touch screen. So I can go hit record. You can see that it's running, it's all red, and the time code is counting. Record, hit record again to stop. And that's it. So we've successfully set up and operated our camera in about 5 minutes. So it took a little bit longer. So that's it. That's all our setups. Quick start guide, how to use that. So then let's just quickly look at alternative cameras. So again, you can use different cameras through our library partners. So the Canon 60 photo camera can be used in video mode, the iPad Pro or iPad. 360 video cameras, they end up shooting in 360 video. So again, check out our 360 video workshops coming up. And then you can use your own technology. So do you have your own iPad or tablet? Do you have your own iPhone or smartphone? GoPro or action camera, photo camera, and video mode. So if you have your own technology, you can use that as well. And you know, why not? And we have great workshops on iPad production. So you can check those all out on our YouTube channel. And it goes over all the ways to control your iPad and shoot that way as well. So then the last thing here is preparing your equipment. So how does this work? So book your equipment from a library partner, take the necessary proficiency test if required, and then you pick up your equipment when you're told it's ready. The next thing to do is charge all your batteries. Get all the cameras, lights, wireless microphones charged. So everything needs to be plugged in and charged with the charging units. And then practice with your equipment. Do some test recording. Set everything up. Make sure it's all working properly. If something doesn't seem to be working, review one of these workshops that you've taken or go to our YouTube channel. You can also email me if you have specific equipment, problem solving that you're struggling with. And then just report any issues. So, if a microphone is totally not working and you feel that it's broken, just let us know. Report the issues, and that way we can try to solve it, figure out what's wrong with it. So that way the next person doesn't suffer from something broken as well. And we can keep the community of the equipment access going with, just taking care of it and also reporting any issues. So that's the main process. And, here's the next kind of goal. So for next week, what I want everyone to do is, now that we've got all our script and pre-production plan ready, determine an equipment list. What will you need in order to film your short video or film production? Make a list that outlines all the equipment you'll need. That might even just be your own equipment. It might be your equipment plus a tripod, your equipment plus one light and a tripod and a microphone. Make out a list. It's really important to create that list, know what you need to achieve your production, and then you're not missing anything. We talked about that with prop. If you need a coffee mug, make sure you have a coffee mug. Same thing with video production. If you need a tripod, make sure you have a tripod in your list. Don't assume that someone else might bring a tripod. If you need a light, take a light out. Don't assume that there will be enough light in the location. Maybe take 1 or 2 lights out to have as backup, even if you plan on using available light. So, plan through that. So I want everyone for next week to create that equipment list. And then we're going to get into kind of some more of these production things with the lenses and the camera again. And the filmmaking process will be our final week 4 of 4. So that's what I have for this week. I got some. If anybody has some questions, I can take some questions. I see here. This is good. We have a post here. Celine's put a post about a past video. I would encourage everyone to get to the YouTube channel. That would be really great. I think this is a Google Drive link. But yeah, check out our YouTube channel where the videos are permanent. Sometimes our Google Drive things are shared within just classes and students, and they will be more fluid and less permanent. So let's keep this conversation going. Definitely want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank all our partners in making this happen. Canada Council for the Arts, our library partners, Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library. And thanks to all of you for joining us. And definitely get that equipment list together, figure out what you need, and email me if you have questions, or if you want to get a proficiency test and you're not sure how to access it. Check out our website if you have any questions about that process. Email me. We want to get everyone through these proficiency tests, get everyone access to this amazing Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. It's there. It's in the libraries. We want you using it. So please explore it. As I showed you, it's really simple. That's the quick start guide, and it's ready to go. And even if you don't want to adjust frame rates or modes, you can get into exposure and recording really quickly just by turning it on. It's as simple as that. What you see is what you get in the screen, so it's really intuitive. It's a high quality, really bright screen, so you can see it outdoors, and what you see is what you get. So if it looks good on that screen, that means you're getting a good image. It's really that simple. So want to get everyone working on these production projects and taking the equipment out. So hope you can enjoy that as well. So please be aware of what you can get and make that list. And then we'll see you next week for final week 4, where we will talk about the production process and a little bit more about using the camera for that process as well. So thanks for joining us, and I will see you next week. All the best.